Alright, welcome back everybody to the AP World Dates to Remember kind of little series that I've got going on. Just finished off period 2 with the fall of Rome, and I figure that kind of with it brings, the end of some other things. So Rome falls 476. It kind of seems like by now Han Dynasty is kind of eraser's not working. Han Dynasty is out of the picture. It's been a while. We're just gonna get them out, just for I guess some continuity. It's kind of solid. Everything's happening at the same time. Rome's falling. Gupta still exist. Constantine becomes Christian. I guess it's still a thing going on. We can get rid of Egypt because they're not as important anymore, really. Obviously still there, but not at the same kind of level that they were before. And the Olmecs too are still going strong till about 800 CE. The Mayans will come into play, but I apologize if I sound any different or if I'm picking up anything in the back, like my dog or something. Of course, the headset that I've been using for 3 years has suddenly decided to combust, so I'm kind of using this really ghetto setup that picks up a little more audio than I would like it to. So with that, we're going to kind of dive right in to period 3. Go here. Alright, so first thing that kind of happens in period 3, after Rome falls, obviously Byzantium has to take its place. So Justinian is going to be one of the bigger Byzantium rulers, and in 527 to 565 is his rule. Go ahead and write that out. In the city of Constantinople as well, right here, I guess. So we'll say Justinian. And what he does is he set up like the Justinian Code and everything. Kind of sets up the groundwork for modern day court, really. And from now on, I think I'm gonna leave out the CE because there's nothing really left happening before Common Era at this point in period 3. It's all Common Era, so I'll just leave the CE out. It's kind of standard now. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, after the Han fall, it's kind of just a power vacuum, and a bigger ruler, or I guess not a bigger ruler, but there was a bunch of local rulers and stuff. So Sui Dynasty is kind of the first one that comes out, and it's kind of founded by this dude who is just like a local, I want to say shogun, but that's more like Japanese, but he's just kind of a local military leader, and he takes over the throne from a child ruler, and kind of centralizes this big area using his military military background, I guess. And they make this the Grand Canal that kind of runs from north to south. I guess that's Beijing up there. I'm not really familiar with Chinese geography. I apologize if this is totally off, but I think like Gobi Desert, Beijing, to more like southern China, and it connects the whole place. Kind of, there's a lot of peasant revolts though, because it's really forceful and they weren't getting much out of it. Sui Dynasty is kind of short-lived. Immediately after, Grand Canal is still there, but Sui Dynasty gets kind of crushed after about 2 rulers, and the Tang Dynasty is the next dudes. They're more like northern China, I guess. Right in here, the Tang, and what they're all about is tributary states. So the tributary states were a great source of wealth for China, and it totally kind of showed their dominance all over Indonesia and Malaysia and Indian Ocean. They kind of come in and take over Vietnam and Korea, and they try and get in at Japan. They end up having influence, but it's nothing like the amount of sway that they had. I guess not sway as in the dynasty, but sway as in influence in Korea and the Vietnamese areas. The little dragon in China is always like the big dragon, as they say. So finally getting back over in that Persian area, Islam, founding of Islam under Mohammed He's kind of like a merchant, you know. 622. It's pretty damn big, honestly. Big event. I'll write the city just because it's that important, you know. I think Mecca is in this area. I don't know. I'm gonna go look that up really quick. Okay, so I was totally wrong. Mecca is in this area, actually. So here's Mecca. I'll just write it on the map, I guess. And basically, Mohammed founds Islam by creating the Ummah, the big community. It was like tribalism, all in the Middle East, and he kind of makes this Ummah under Allah, and they take over Mecca and they take over the Kaaba and everything. I won't get too in depth because there's a lot I could say about Islam, but that's pretty much the basis of Islam that Mohammed comes into, Middle East, kind of gets a lot of traction, Islam, because it's so like generous to the lower classes and stuff. Anyways, back over here in the East, the Taka reform is kind of taking place, which is really, like I was mentioning, the Tang kind of spreading out, taking over Korea, taking over Vietnam. Not quite directly, but they're definitely putting their roots in other countries, giving off Confucianism and such, and also taking their money. But in Japan, can't really get them over this sea, because every kind of attempt is kind of muddled by either perfect weather conditions for Japan, where they're just crushing Chinese ships and everything, or they have good defense. They're on an island, for Christ's sake. So Taka reform is kind of a voluntary movement to take Confucianism and Chinese ideas into Japan, and kind of moves to make it more it lays the groundwork for feudal Japan, I guess. And there's the upper class emperor and stuff, and that tale of Genji was all about how court life was, and it was written by a woman too, which is kind of interesting. But it was about how luxurious court life is after taking over Confucianistic Chinese ideals. Back over to Middle East, after Islam was kind of born, there's all these kind of empires. Well, not all of them, but the Umayyads are the big one. So the Umayyads, Umayyad Dynasty, spelled like so. It lasts from goes from 667 all the way to 750 CE. So these Umayyads, they're really huge into military expansion. I mean, like insanely. They use women in their army. They're fighting for Allah, I guess, in their jihad, and their borders kind of go all the way here. They take all of this peninsula. They go, just kind of outline all of it. Take all this area, a lot of North Africa even. Get up here, kind of take over Egypt, I guess. If I hadn't erased it, it just would have been absorbed in there. And really eating away at like this Byzantium area, kind of a real threat to be dealt with. In the Umayyads, really big. They even spread out over to Iberia, kind of coming into Iberia eventually when the Abbasids completely kick them out. They'll be in Al-Andalus, or Andalusia, in modern-day Spain, which is kind of like, I guess if that's Portugal, Andalusia is this little southern province of them, but militaristic. They had good women's rights. Women were fighting in the military. Not a lot of Sharia law or anything like that. They weren't fundamentalists. They weren't the Golden Age or anything, but they were conquering a lot under Islam. It was pretty impressive. So afterwards, we're gonna go take kind of a random look at the Sriwijaya, which is just basically a trading empire in Indonesia. Kind of just controlled this area, I guess. They were being subject to the Chinese tributaries, and Sriwijaya was just like a trading empire. They last for a while. I guess they were just tolling people in the Indian Ocean. If you want to know about them, now you do. Don't really have to. There's the Khmer up here in Vietnam, I guess. I think they're up here. I want to say they're up here. The Khmer. I'll write them down because, why not? But they had Angkor Wat, which was the capital. Kind of comes back during Cambodian genocide, and they were another trading empire in Indonesia, Malaysia area. So that's all you really need to know about them. All right, going back to Byzantium, and finally Western Europe, if you're into that kind of thing. We'll get rid of Justinian and Rome, because that's old news by now. Probably around. Well, let's zoom out and take a look actually what's going on in the world. Tang are coexisting with Islam. Oh, and also Islam, they were really spreading tech around a lot. They were getting all over the place. I mean, this is a huge expanse. They're taking tech all the way from here, and it's just getting thrown across this Europe, into Europe from Asia. And there's just a lot of spread of stuff. And they were definitely not communicating like strongly, but there's Chinese stuff diffusing over from the Silk Road, I guess. But anyways, back in the West, we'll just look at same time. Gupta are out of the picture by now. India is going to be decentralized for a very long time, and this is kind of what we've got going on at the time. So back over here, finally, keep teasing it, but finally can go into it. The Iconoclasm Controversy was, kind of that big thing, catalyst for the split of Orthodoxy and Western Catholicism. So basically, in Constantinople, Iconoclasm, they have the patriarchs, which are the Orthodox kind of priests, and back in Rome, which is still technically exists, but it's not the Roman Empire anymore. They have the Pope, Roman Catholic Pope, Christian, Western Europe kind of Catholicism stuff, but they disagree mainly on icons. So as Umayyads and eventually the Abbasids are going to be destroying, absolutely obliterating everything. Look at the amount of territory that they've taken in such a short amount of time, really, like not even 100 years. They've kind of claimed the whole Middle East, get northern Africa, kind of even seeping into Turkey, really threatening Byzantium. And the Byzantines start to think, wow, maybe God doesn't actually love us because we're like worshiping saints in their houses. Like even now, like Western Christianity worship a lot of saints. There's saint days. Just off the top of my head, there's like Saint Francis, Saint I don't know. There's a lot of them. Saint Damien of Malachi, I guess. I don't know. There's hundreds of them. Saint Father Baker, which is being canonized right now, I guess. Anyways, Byzantines are starting to think, wow, we're really not looking like monotheism at all. Allah is helping Islam because, they're truly a monotheism. They're just disobeying the first commandment, or the second commandment, there is no other God. And they kind of just destroy all the icons. So they do that in Byzantium, but meanwhile in Rome, really don't want to get rid of all the saints. So this iconoclasm takes place in between 780 to 842, and it's this big kind of catalyst for the schism that's going to take place, and it's going to be nasty, and they're going to split pretty strong. It's going to be a big deal. So meanwhile, going to go back to China. Pretty important, actually. Gives way for a lot of crazy stuff, and hell, it even gives way for the medium that I am communicating this to you. The printing press is created in China. We'll just say printing press, and in a way, I guess YouTube is like the printing press. Jordan Peterson says, "Oh wow, YouTube is the modern day printing press. You can just mass produce information and spread it around." So 730 CE, printing press is created in China. Kind of a big deal. On the complete other side of Eurasia is the Battle of Tours, which I believe takes place over here. What the Battle of Tours was, Charlemagne's grandfather, Charles Martel the Hammer, he fights off the Umayyads that are kind of seeping up into Western Europe. They have Iberia, and they're getting there, but Charles Martel, the Hammer, they call him, because I assume he had a hammer or something, fought the Battle of Tours and held back Islamic reign in Western Europe. Who knows what would have happened if the Battle of Tours went the other way, but he kind of defended it, and Western Europe will be Christian for a while. After that, his grandson, Charlemagne, kind of rules up here and almost centralizes. I'll just kind of get a brief kind of area. I mean, that almost goes into Germany, I guess. More so down here. Charlemagne rules. He's the first Holy Roman Empire. No, he's the first Holy Roman Empire. Charlemagne, spelled like that, right? He's the first Holy Roman Emperor, and grandson of Charles Martel the Hammer. He probably gets the closest to centralization that we're going to see in Western Europe for a very long time, really, to 814, without feudalism too. Pretty impressive. He was pro-education, pro-education. He was illiterate, but he was really into educating his people, and it's kind of how he stayed centralized, I guess. It's about time. The Umayyads finally kicked out of power. We love them, but they had to go eventually. Nothing lasts forever. After the Umayyads are out, the Abbasids take over. I probably should get rid of that as well. The Abbasids. Abbasid Dynasty. And basically what they do is the final breaking point, the straw that broke the donkey's back for the Umayyads was Abbasids bring them to dinner, get them all drunken up, and then they kill all of them. And it's horrible and absolutely no honor from the Abbasids. Kind of despise them for that, but there's plenty of other things to despise them for. Like going back to fundamentalism, Sharia law, really big into veiling women. Women's rights are all gone. You have to be by a man at all times. Abbasids, the Abbasids, they were the golden age, really responsible for spreading sugar. They're going to be around when the Crusades are happening. So when the Crusades happen, they come over, they get all this new tech that Abbasids got from China, like the printing press and the junk ships, which are responsible for the caravels that come out eventually. And Abbasids kind of facilitate those when Crusades come over, and they take them back from the Abbasids because they were just spending a lot of time there, They have probably the same amount of territory, I imagine. But that's the Abbasids. Less militaristic. I think their reign is definitely cut off up there, but because it's more towards Umayyads over here, I might as well write their name. They're in Andalusia. That's the area. Umayyads up there. Just gonna be there for a while. Alright, next up we have the Heian period, which is a Japanese kind of chunk of history in which Japan is kind of going through, they've already got Confucianism and stuff, but they're kind of experiencing Buddhism and stuff, feudalism, it's creeping in. There's not much to say about the Heian period. I guess it's just Japan kind of coming into their glory kind of age. And that goes from 794 to 1185, so it's a pretty long time, really, think about it. Oh, yeah, here we go. On the list, it actually lists the Khmer, which kind of got a little ahead of ourselves here. The Khmer are over in this Cambodian area, which I believe is over here. I'm not the greatest geographer or anything, but they go from 889 to 143, and it's more so I guess they're important, but it's really kind of leading up to the Khmer Rouge, if I remember correctly, in Cambodia, and the Cambodian genocide and everything. That happens probably 600 years later after the Khmer fall. So, here we go. Are we just kind of going back to America? The timeline jumped over the Mayans, so I'll find a date for these Mayans. Okay, so according to the internet, The Mayans were around about 500 BCE, which is about right. Olmec lived for, what's that, 700 years? Sounds about right. Then the Mayans came in 500 BC. I feel bad for skipping over them. But we get to jump straight to their death. So the Mayans decline around 900 CE. In here it's marked as a blue, but I'll put it as a green because I think it's more important than that. We gotta give the Mayans credit. We skipped over them anyway. Mayans fall. Okay. Next up on the list, going back to China. About time, Tang Dynasty have outlived their welcome. The song here, we're going to kind of take up the same area. I think they get a little bit bigger. I think so. Yeah, we'll say they're bigger. The song kind of got the same idea. Tributary states all around, but really Confucianist. Oh, you know what I should have mentioned during the Tang? Buddhism was creeping in to China, and the Tang kind of embraced Neo-Confucianism and kicked that out of there. So Buddhism really had no place in China by this time. And so the Song are here to stay. They have all sorts of things that that China's been making, like the printing press. They've got gunpowder, but they aren't really using it. They've got all sorts of ships and stuff capable of going across the sea and subjugating, I suppose, and demanding tributaries from others. So that's what the song's about, tributaries. Kind of coming up to the end here. So Otto Saxony. Who the heck is Otto Saxony? Okay, so we didn't really look at Otto Saxony that much during the school year, I guess, because I have absolutely no recollection of this guy. I don't even remember his name. But it looks like he was the heir to Charlemagne and kind of destroys this whole centralization idea in Western Europe. And he's from Saxony, which is obviously a little section of Germany. And Otto is Holy Roman Emperor, but he kind of breaks all ties with his Carlinian roots, which is Charlemagne and his family and everything. So kind of goes back to feudalism, and so Otto Saxony does. And that's gonna wrap up period 3. That's a long one. That is really a long one. I mean, it only gets bigger though too. Honestly, there's more. Period 4, probably double actually, really. But I kind of took my time with this. I hope you don't mind. This is gonna be a longer video. Hopefully, in post I can cut it down a little bit, but you really can't help it. There's just so much to learn. You're learning the history of the whole entire world. So, yeah, if you're expecting short and sweet, well, this is definitely the wrong video for you, or video series. I guess this is the wrong course for you. You should not be taking AP World if you can't handle a 20-minute explanation of, what's the time frame? 500 to 1000 CE. So, it's going to be long. It's going to be painful. We'll get there, though. We'll get a 5. Every single one of us. We'll get a 5. So, I hope I did a good job explaining period 3. And I hope the audio is not too bad. Like I said, not my normal setup, not how I want it to be, but it is what it is. Gotta live with what we got. And but that's period 3. All right. So thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you in period 4. We're gonna be starting big with the schism in Christianity. So Western Europe is really gonna see its Catholic embrace, and we'll see Orthodoxy in Eastern Europe and Russia. So I hope you come back. If you don't, good luck on the AP exam, and thank you for watching. Adios.